Hey guys, and welcome to LBB91 Coaching. Yes, we're talking to you guys today about what happens when the anxious preoccupied or the anxious attachment isn't text back. What happens to them? Let me tell you this now. The silence makes the anxious person feel like they did something wrong, and it's going to make them want to reconnect with that person as quickly as possible. Potentially double texting, maybe thinking something they've done is wrong, maybe visiting your workplace, who knows? But the reality of the situation is the anxious person, aside all the jokes, really does actually start to feel that in the moments of silence that there is something that is wrong, something that they've done wrong. And they feel like there is a need to reconnect immediately because of the fear of abandonment. So we're going to break this video down a bit more and hopefully give you a bit more understanding and more language to what you've been experiencing or have experienced from somebody that you actually know. So before we go anywhere, like, share, subscribe, click on that wonderful bell button for notifications of the uploads. And don't forget also to hype this video up as well. Let's transform, let's grow, and let's heal in this particular video. So for the anxious avoidant, I want to be the anxious attachment. Sorry, I want to be able to break this down. The anxious attachment is all about connection. They want to feel connected and they have an anxiety when they're not connected. And this fear can manifest itself in a space of needing reassurance consistently. So any form of silence or gap or distance starts to feel like they're about to be abandoned, and their instincts kick in to start closing the gap between themselves and the other person. That's why we talk about the anxious and avoidant cycle that tends to happen quite a bit, because the avoidant runs away, the anxious person wants to chase. So the anxious attachment, feels uneasy when there is a drop in communication or a pattern of communication has began to change, or the tone changes, or the language changes. Any kind of thing that disturbs the original pattern will start to alert the ears and the eyes and the nervous system of the anxious attached person. They consistently need a verbal affirmation and reassurance to feel secure, and they overthink body language and overthink tone, and they struggle to relax when they are not connected to that person. Okay. And so understanding where they come from would be very helpful for us as well to understand how we're going to move forward. The anxiously attached person grew up in a household where performance was valued above them being loved for who they were. And then whenever you're in performance, you are consistently moving and having to do something in order to earn something. So whenever something's taken away from you, it means that you must have not done something. So the anxious person starts to feel anxious when there is a gap, some silence, and the text is not coming in, because maybe they did something to cause there to be an issue. And there generally could be something that they actually did. But in reality, this also can be very much so that you didn't do nothing, and the other person just needed a little bit of space and a little bit of time. But the anxious person doesn't see like that. And so because they grew up in an inconsistent household where they were consistently chasing after something, that's their natural position. They must pursue, they must chase, they must hunt down this connection. And so they are comforted when they are in a position of trying to get something from someone. And as children, they've learned that performance is effort. They've learned that closeness isn't guaranteed. It can change at any given moment and any given time. And that silence actually is a form of abandonment, or at least will lead to abandonment. And so this then means in their adult phases, their intuition kicks in, or so they say. Actually, it's just hypervigilance. It's hypervigilance around the areas of abandonment. So whenever a pattern shifts, their hypervigilance clocks the pattern. And then they start to seek reassurance by wanting to double text, to ask you, are you okay, consistently, what's going on, like I feel like something's changed. And this can be feeling like an overbearing, clingy effect that then begins actually to be what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they begin to push the person away from themselves because of the constant intensity they bring to that relationship. So let's talk about our scenario. They haven't texted you for a few hours. What does the anxious person go through in that moment when they haven't been texted, when they haven't been called, when they have not been communicated with? What is the mindset? Well, when the communication begins to slow, the anxious person starts to spiral into their own self-blame in that space, right? They start to think, I must have done something. They panic. I've done something wrong. I've hurt their feelings. I've says something, probably they start really going through their mind to go back through the relationship and beginning to review anything that's happened in the past because they feel uncomfortable with being discomforted. And so they try to find an answer so they can reconnect quickly and overly apologize. I'm so sorry I've done this. I'm so sorry I've done that. I must have said this. I must have done this to you, right? And this can be looking like they want to have, like they are taking ownership, but really and truly, it actually isn't. It's over identifying with accountability when there is actually no need for it, right? So they notice the changes. Like for instance, let's say the person has a message for the last few hours, they'll really note it down how many hours has been missed. They'll scroll through texts, wondering, did I sound too eager? Did I do too much? Their heart will race when they feel like they have to text again. They don't want to, but they're going to double text. Okay. And relief only happens when they get that message back, with their core belief being, if I go quiet, it means I did something wrong, or they are losing interest. If the other person is in that space, that's what they start to do. So having explained all of that, and understanding that they equate silence with rejection, or at least silence with abandonment, how do we then look at being more secure in this particular space? I think when we have to look at for anxious people being more secure, they have to remind themselves that first and foremost, you don't have to co-regulate with that person every single time. You got to learn how to self-soothe. What does that mean? It means to journal, audio, write down. It means to go for a walk, maybe just to kind of allow your nervous system to not feel so overloaded, to breathe, to learn how to redirect your attention elsewhere and not come with so much intensity. Okay, allowing for the emotion to pass, because sometimes what happens with the anxious person is that the emotion sits on them and they feel like they have to react. It's very similar to the fearful avoidance, but you have to recognize that you don't need to do so. You have to build your own inner reassurance. Allow yourself to say to myself, just because I'm not doing something doesn't mean I don't have value. And again, these are coming from building blocks of really sitting with self and understanding that you have self-worth and self-esteem without needing to actually attain love and affection from other people. Okay. Um, and then another aspect is also just kind of, before you go and create an action, and before you react to something, just slowing it down. Okay, just slowing it down and being able to speak to yourself and validate yourself. I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay. This is a moment. It will pass, because it will pass. And just recognizing that your feelings are valid, but the actions don't need to be taken place. The actions are in your control. You are not being controlled by your feelings. You are in control of your feelings. You have ownership over your feelings. You are the commander in chief over your feelings. Don't give in and just say, I just did it because I felt that way. No, you did it because you chose to do it, and you're choosing to do those things. So choose to also sit and allow those feelings to pass. Okay. All right. Now, of course, if you want deeper breakdown of how to heal from that attachment wound, then of course you're gonna have to book a session with myself, because I want you to grow, I want you to transform, and I want you to heal. So listen, my time's up. And so if you're here, make sure you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing, you're clicking on that wonderful bell button. Leave us a comment down below. Have you ever felt like that in a situation where someone texted you and you felt like you had to respond, or you had to reply or get a connection with that person because you felt they were pulling away? Let us know down below your thoughts and your opinions and your experiences as well. We would love to hear some of your thoughts as well. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe again, and click on that wonderful button. And don't forget to hype the video up as well. We'll see you again very, very soon. Much love.